Hey guys, welcome back to Arry the Stag. TR Tony here, sat in the Stag, out and about on a nice sunny December's day, enjoying a bit of driving for a change. Hope all well with you. This week I've had a bit of a crisis actually. I've had to put the car into a local Triumph garage to us. We have had a bit of a blow on the exhaust manifold on the engine for quite some time, and peering into the depths of the engine bay a week or two back, I was very aware that yes, there was a blow from underneath the exhaust manifold itself, but also the fact that there were evidently a couple of studs missing or broken off, and I really didn't want to get into all of that without proper equipment. So long story short, took it to a local Triumph specialist who's had a good look at it, and I'll show you the remnants of what's happened in just a moment, and on the workbench, and then maybe come back and show you a bit more under the engine bay. So let's go to the garage and have a quick look. So here we have the UES 591S's exhaust manifold. It's located on the right hand side of the engine. It's actually upside down at the moment. This is the top, obviously the bottom that goes off to the exhaust. I'll pan round and just show you the engine that we have for UNY 49M, just to get the context. So the challenge the Triumph guys had was that this is the exhaust manifold in position here on the engine. Now if you look down through the bonnet of a Triumph Stag, you probably get to about this level and then wonder how on earth you really get down under here, because the fixing bolts are right underneath on the engine stroke cylinder head there. As you can see, the alley of the cylinder head held on at the bottom there. So it's a real tricky kind of set of, I call them bolts, they're actually called screws, but they look like bolts basically. They're not pegs or anything like that as such. They are actually kind of bolted in with these screws, if you want to call them that. And I just showed you where it went off to the exhaust on the other one on the bench that's been taken off, and that's actually where it comes up. In fact, these are studs here. You've got one, two, I think it's a third one around underneath. So those are actually studs for the downpipe that goes off to the exhaust under the car, and it uses a set of screws here to affix to the side of the engine, as I say, on the actual cylinder heads themselves, actually on the aluminium. So that's the context in which this one had to be removed. Now, as luck would have it, I've managed to print off a diagram of the exhaust manifolds of the Stag, and just to give you a bit of a navigation, this is the one that we're looking at, which is the off side, so the driver's side, if you will, and we're looking at it face on, if you like, looking this way as if it was attached to the engine. That's the downpipe that's going off via the exhaust to the back of the car, and then the near side one, you may know, has got the downpipe that goes back under the engine and away. Often you can see that underneath the car. There's also a bit of a cowl here that actually takes by clever radiation, I guess, hot air that is around the pipe, exhaust pipe, up a manifold back up to the engine, and that goes into the air intake, which I guess makes the air expand and therefore carry more fuel and therefore a bit more power. So that's the kind of the principle of that. But this is the one that we're talking about, and as you can see here, they've got various places to fix these this exhaust manifold on, and that's where the screws go into. Obviously each one of these faces has a gasket, and this is a stud. There's 3 studs, I think there are there, that fixes it to the flange of the exhaust that goes off to the back. So this is the one we're looking at, and just thought I'd put it into perspective. Now the trouble is, what had happened on ours was we could visibly see at least, I think it was this one was missing. It was just basically the head had come off. There was a stud or remains of the bolt basically sticking out, which we thought was a stud but actually wasn't. There was, I think, one missing here, and again there was one, I forget which one, it might have been this one, that actually got jammed in, broken off actually inside the alley as well. So a real pig to try and get out, and therein was the challenge. They took a lot of time to try and get this off the UES 591S engine, and it's often the way, isn't it? On the face of it, just, what is it, 6 bolts holding this thing to the side. You think, oh yeah, fairly easy, but actually it wasn't at all. So if I pan back round now to the one that's come off the car, which they've now replaced, and I think you can see it's probably been on there since the car was made in 1977. There's a rather tired kind of gasket that sat on the exhaust downpipe connector down to the exhaust itself. Obviously won't be used again because it's very tired, but probably been on there for a very long time. And for those of you that are really fast, I'm sure you've spotted the issue already. You couldn't really see it from the top of the car. If you imagine we're looking down at the top of the car this way, you could hear a puff, you could hear the exhaust blowing. We couldn't find out where it was coming from, the noise, but you could hear it. And actually, as it turned out, it was right underneath the exhaust manifold itself. And I'm sure you can see now there's some evidence here, some telltale marks under here. And what happened was when they tried to remove it sensibly, then the thing just failed. And I'll reveal now, this is actually what happened. The casting broke off, and it was evident that this had been going for quite some time actually, because if you look at the bit that's broken off here, yes, there's some fresh casting that obviously came off when they were trying to get the bolts off the engine block. But if you look here, you can see the evidence. This had been blowing for quite some time. You can see carbon deposits here where the exhaust had been blowing through, and it was getting louder and louder and more embarrassing. So we had to do something, and on the face of it, a simple little job, as I mentioned, but ended up being a bit of a task. Inside the exhaust manifold itself, again, you can see it's quite coked up in there, black soot and whatever. And yeah, such a shame, but luckily the guy had a spare one, which I note on, if you can get hold of one, they're about £100 to get hold of, even if you can get hold of a right hand side one. And clearly they've got gaskets on the faces here where it meets the cylinder head, as I showed you earlier. But here you can see as well, looks like it's been blowing through a gasket here. That's carbon coming through and blowing. So it was well overdue a change. I'm glad we've made that happen. The car actually sounds a lot nicer now, a lot more quiet, as it should do. But that was the fundamental issue, all to do with the fracturing of the casting, which you can't replace or repair. Well, we replaced it, you can't repair it because it is casting material. I guess, I don't know, you could have bodged it with some metal gunk, some instant metal that I've seen on the market occasionally. Whether it would have lasted very long, I don't know, because that is quite a tough environment. You're literally getting the explosions out of the engine, and this is the first bit of bend in the pipe that faces up all that heat coming out of those on that bank, the 4 cylinders on that side. So interesting how things can on the face of it seem so simple, and yet such a job to do. But he's done it. I'm really pleased, and we'll be set for next year now, and raring to go. So there we are. That's UES 591S. Not quite sure what we're going to do with this now. Maybe use it as a lead weight or something for fishing. I don't know. No, it's got to be scrapped. And that's the end of that. All right, guys. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. Very interesting to see in the aftermath just what had been the problem. As I said in the video, the cast itself had been going for some time. You could see where it had been blowing for a little while. So good to have got that job done. Way beyond my capability. Oxyacetylene torches and all that kind of malarkey. I just don't have that kind of infrastructure or that kind of equipment. So good that that was done. And yes, actually the car is a lot less noisy now too. So I can get it out in Christmas and the New Year period, drive around in complete confidence. I'm not going to wake the neighbourhood up when I start it up first thing in the morning. So that's all good. Brilliant. Okay, well, another job done, and another chink in the life of UES 591S. So all going in the right direction for New Year. And yeah, meanwhile, thanks for watching. Really appreciate all your likes, shares and subscribes. Please feel free to give us thumbs up. Always happy to hear that. And yeah, we'll see you online on Arry the Stag very soon. Cheers for now. Bye.